What's good? What's good? The freaking sunshine that we have. They haven't started spraying the sky with the things yet, but they will. But it's beautiful today, and it's really nice, and I love it. And one of the best and worst things, also TMI warning, TMI warning. I'll try to be delicate and gentle, but one of the best things about the sunshine is that the ladies, they just wear less. And it's awesome, but also annoying. And so I want to kind of delve into this a little bit. I'm going to I'm going to be personal. And I know a lot of men feel similarly to me, but they won't necessarily say it in a public forum. So I'm going to say it. First of all, the title of this video actually is Sexual Frustration Radicalizing Men. And then it's too long of a subtitle, but I wanted to do a subtitle of, inversely, is sexual liberation destroying women, or something along those lines. Because there is definitely a yin and a yang to this conversation. But I think there's some merit. So let's start with the men's side of things first. Is sexual frustration radicalizing men? I 100% believe that it is happening. Because we can focus on the frustration part. We don't need to necessarily understand the root to understand that frustration in itself is a radicalizing force. Because frustration often comes with this sense of not being able to do something about it, or feeling helpless in some way, shape, or form, or feeling constrained maybe. So I'll throw this statistic out. I'm not saying it's true, but I would believe it. They're saying that right now 80% of the women are pursuing 20% of the men in the dating atmosphere. And I would believe it, because in my 20s, I perpetuated that problem. I was part of the problem. And I acknowledge that. And now that I'm trying to be a better man, it's really frustrating in that I don't want to just, bust out the Riz and be like Barney Stinson from How I Met Your Mother, and just I don't want to be part of the problem anymore. I don't want to have meaningless sex. Not saying that there might not be a point in your life where that is something you should explore, but I did that and I'm past that. However, one of the reasons that statistic that 80% of women are pursuing 20% of men exists is because we have a dramatic disparity in class, essentially. So I think it stems largely from class. I'm in the camp of people that believe there is a biological drive for women to be, in general, hypergamous. If you don't know what that means, it means that they are generally seeking to mate with a partner who, I don't want to say is better than them, but who they feel confident will provide physical, mental, spiritual safety. And that often comes in the form of material resources. Material resources are a foundational aspect of self-actualization. And so if you do not, I'm talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs right now. So if you don't have the material resources to just take care of those base layers, the food, fire, shelter, water that I've talked about, hunger, you're not going to be able to get to that social level and then that self-actualization level. You're going to be stuck here at the primal levels. And so there are a lot of men right now who are stuck in those levels. There are also a lot of women who are stuck in those levels. But the difference is, at the top, those 20% of men at the top, they get to have their pick almost of all the women, right? Of the 80%. And so because femininity in itself is a resource, I don't want to get too deep into that, but femininity is a resource that can be bartered, a lot of women who do not have the material resources can barter their feminine resources to attract a man who has material resources, but also maybe some social resources and some self-actualization. So that's why there is this dating disparity. It's biological. Hypergamy, I do believe, drives in general. We're speaking in generalities when speaking about like biology and anthropology and psychology. We must always speak in generalities. Anomalies absolutely do exist. And you should not box yourself into the generalities. Rather, you should use the generalities as a starting point, a frame of reference, if you will. And so men are not able to get beyond the bottom rungs of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. They're looking for excuses, they're looking for outlets, they're looking for directions to focus that frustration. And that's where the radicalization comes in. And so if you're wondering why men, particularly maybe young men, are inclined to be radicalized, that is a huge contributing factor. And I'll just speak personally here for a minute. I got to wrap up the video. I got to pick up here. But it's really frustrating when I'm going about my day, just neutral, and I see a more than half naked woman, or less than half, a woman who's wearing almost no clothing, or it's tight fitting and it's just cleavage and shapes, and it's awesome but frustrating at the same time. It's frustrating because I have no avenues to pursue dating in this marketplace, and I don't want to just go have meaningless sex. And so what do? Well, sexual transmutation is what I'm trying to do. I'm not that great at it. I'm still a beginner, and that's what I would recommend you if you are a frustrated man, to research sexual transmutation. Essentially, you're turning that energy into a productive cause. So you take in that frustration, that sexual energy, you take it in, and then instead of getting mad about it, you cultivate it, you harness it, and then you go use it as a source of energy. That's what I'm personally trying to do. I'm not great at it yet, but I'm working on it. But I can also still acknowledge that it's frustrating constantly seeing just beautiful women and then not being able to participate in that marketplace. I used to, when I was in much better shape and I had a lot more money in my 20s, when I talked about earlier, that period of my life, Barney Stinson from How I Met Your Mother impacted me. And there was a point in my life where I realized, wow, I'm letting media influence who I am, and I don't like it. Because I looked at him and I was like, well, I might as well just be a Barney. And I don't want to be that way. And I haven't been that way for years. I have not had sex in a long time. Oh, I miss it. Oh, it's so frustrating. But it's going to be more meaningful when I finally find a partner that I have, levels of compatibility with, that I'm not just using, and that's not just using me. Let's try to touch real quickly on the sexual liberation for women and how it might be destroying them. In that world where hypergamy is a driving force, there's also, I believe, something called pair bonding. So pair bonding is chemical reactions that occur when a woman, it happens to men too, but it's much more impactful in women, when they have sex, when they have those intimate relationships, and they can be long lasting and long forming. And if there's ever this, you ever hear that narrative around women who just can't get over that their first love, that's partially why. But there's psychological reasons, and then there's also biological reasons. Literally, hormonal shifts happen and occur during the pair bonding process. But over time, with more and more partners, you lose the bonding element. There's still some, cool serotonin and other hormones and endorphins, but the bonding element it dissipates, which is arguably one of the most important elements of intimacy, is the bonding. because that from that bonding you create the psychological security that allows the physiological pleasure. I've said this before in that men need to get off to let go. Women need to let go to get off. So in letting go, they need to be psychologically relaxed and in a state where they can let go, literally, and allow pleasure to fill them. That's what, like, the beautiful dynamic between men and women can be relationshipally, whatever. That's like the divine connection of the masculine and the feminine. I want to get this out real quick, and then I just forgot it. Shit. Oh, I do believe that at the core of these culture wars that we're fighting, it is the separation of the genders. And it is the division, the manufactured division of the genders, of the sexes. We've lost touch of that relationship between the divine masculine and the divine feminine, and how actualized individuals who are comfortable in their masculinity and in their femininity come together to create beautiful things, families and community and art. And there is, I would say, more women and trans women, so men who identify as women, but then also more men who are just like I don't want to use the term beta, but like men who aren't as tough, maybe. They're being pushed left. They're being radicalized left. But then, men who don't think masculinity in general is bad, and men who don't think leftism is good, and who are not getting to participate in the sexual marketplace like the MGTOW movement. I'm not MGTOW, but I acknowledge that it's a big movement, and it's growing. And that's a radicalized movement. Don't come at me, MGTOW guys. I support you. I want you to have fulfilling lives, but MGTOW's not the way, in my opinion. But obviously, focus on you. It's not all bad. There's good at the MGTOW. So let's wrap this up by saying your body is a temple. You should worship it, and that means taking care of it. That's a whole nother reason men don't date, because y'all need to lose some fucking weight. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to body shame, but from a health standpoint, internally, it's not good for you. But then externally, symmetry and shapes and proportions, they're attractive. That's beyond the layer of this superficial skin and whatnot. It's geometry. It's universal nature. That's why it's important to be healthy and to worship your body. All right, I'm gonna end it now. I gotta pick up this order. Much love. Thank you for listening.